How's it going, everyone? Sethphir here, and today we are going to be talking about monster drops and elaborating a bit more on gear score, loot luck, and just some of the loot information that we were attempting to gather during the beta. So during that beta, we basically had a good idea on how all of this stuff was working, but I wanted to be a bit more accurate and kind of consult some more experts. So I went ahead and reached out to the guys running the Nwdb.info website, and we got in contact with a guy named Yo, who is the main one running it. Sorry if I butchered that pronunciation, but he also brought in some of his active Discord members, Sairaph and Sarphus. Also, probably took me like 80 takes to say all of that correctly, so just wanted to congratulate myself for a second there. But yeah, these were some great people. We sat down and we had a discussion on gear score, loot luck, some of the monster drops, and just some general functionality of like the database. So this is something that I feel is a valuable resource, much like I did the New World map thing. It's something that I used during the beta as well. So I figured I would sit here and talk about those things. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one, which would be the update on gear score and loot luck. Alright, so on my screen here I have some patch notes from Amazon. These actually were from the alpha patch notes. But what's important here is to look at this phrasing in the highlighted section. And this basically is saying that there exists something called a high watermark, which is, quote unquote, players' ability to earn items above their current gear score. And so what is this high watermark? So in our discussion with the guys from New World database, we basically determined that there is a watermark or a system that says when you equipped a certain level of item in that slot, it kind of saves that on your character. And so what that's going to do is it's going to allow you to potentially get better gear from drop sources, if they're able to drop it. So if I have a full set of 550 gear pieces, then my chance of getting something above 550 would be a bit better. It would basically try to drop things in that range. It would try to drop it around there. So it could be lower than, it could be equal to, but it could also be better than. So essentially what this is saying is that at some point you want to equip some sort of an item that is going to boost up that gear score to allow you to get access to some better drops. So we did also talk about what was counting as that item and what wasn't. So there was some discussions about whether you could trade an item to your friend and that would count. We weren't super sure on that for the gear score, but we were pretty positive that things like a quest reward or a faction gear would not count as that gear score. And I think, and that's just me drawing my personal opinion from this, and like none of this is facts confirmed by Amazon or anything, but it's just kind of looking at the information given, because I did notice when I got the faction gear, my rewards went up, but they didn't go up by that much. Like they should have been going up to about that 550 range, but they were not. They were kind of floating in my average gear score range around like a 525, and it may or may not be like piece dependent as well. So there's a lot of like different information that's kind of coming out for that. But from what I could get, like the top down point of view, because these guys could probably explain to you the whole system and everything it works, but from my understanding, it seemed to be that I would want to procure drops or crafted sources of gear that would boost up my high watermark slot on all these items, which would allow me to find better things. So just a little update on that. I wanted to clarify a little bit. That is an official Amazon system. We're not super sure on how it works, but we have an okay idea. So that should help guide you a little bit to get you some better loot drops. Then we also have one more thing that we could talk about, which is loot luck. Right, so loot luck. This was also a discussion we had. I think it was Sarphus who was saying, a lot about the items that he had found. Like he got a loot luck set and he kind of tested it out, and he noticed that, as he got higher to the gear score, he was getting some like high gear score grays, but not necessarily high gear score high quality items. So what's happening here, we believe, or from my understanding at least, is that when you have loot luck, you're increasing your odds of rolling it into a next rarity, or the amount of perks that could be on the item. So Amazon here has another set of patch notes, which is just talking about equipment and how these perks determine the rarity and the rule set in which they follow. So from what we can see here is that, no perks is a common item, 1 perk is an uncommon item, so that would be your green, 2 perks being a rare, and 3 perks being an epic. So how I'm thinking it's working is like your loot, it's rolling some sort of dice to determine like how many bonus perks you're going to be getting on an item. And the higher your loot luck, the higher that chance that you're going to get multiple perks, and thus increasing the rarity of the item. And again, this is all not like super confirmed or anything. I mean, it is in terms of the perk system, but not how the luck directly affects that. My guess is we'll never know, but all we can do is give our best guess as to how this is working. But we do notice that when you have higher luck, you will receive more rare items, as stated by the description in game, right? And then we can also go down to see that there is a second category. So it talks about named and legendary items, and these seem to follow their own variables. They kind of just ignore the system. So what it does is, like, you'll see legendary items with varying perks. Like sometimes they won't even have 4, they'll have 1 or 2 or 3. And then also named items, like this one's Soul Forged Blight. I think you can also get named items of non-legendary status, and I think we do see that a lot too in the dungeons with a lot of the bind on pickup gear, as you can get these special drops from the dungeons that kind of just follow their own rule set. So that's a little bit of an update on loot and how that is working. I will leave a description or a link in the description to both of these sources from Amazon, as well as a link in the description to the Nwdb info website. And there is one final thing I wanted to take a look at, which was monster drops. So we'll go ahead and hop into that. All right, so this is the New World Database website. Link will be in the description, and basically what you can do here is quite phenomenal. So if I go to the database, I can actually look at majority of the items that are in the game right now. And as with all databases, it's probably not fully complete yet. As we get closer to launch, there's going to be new things added by Amazon, I'm sure, and some of this information needs to be compiled with sources and drops over time, so take that with a grain of salt as you will, but it's pretty accurate for the most part. So what I can do is I can click on a weapon and I can basically see where this is coming from. And so if I look here, I know it's coming from a recipe, and then here's the recipe. How recipes usually work is you have to find some special item, right? So a special item would trigger your ability to get that recipe. So in this case, it would probably be this ancient bearing, I would assume. Maybe one of these things. But basically you can kind of get an idea as to where some of this stuff is coming out at. If we take a look here at an item to like dropped items, because those are legendary items, they kind of follow like different rule sets. But let's go for this Tanner's hat, for example. Oh, why is that not working? Okay, there we go. We'll go for the next one here. Oh, there we go. Got the Tanner's hat. Must have misclicked or something. But basically what we're going to see is where this is gathered from. So another thing that we also talked about was you need to be a certain level, as you can see here, in order to even see this item. So if you do want something for your crafting, like 2% yield to leatherworking, like on the screen, and maybe you want +2 to the quality of jewel crafting items or armor smithing items, whatever that may be, you can use this site to look up that information. As you can see, the drops are still a work in progress, but as time goes on, we're going to get a lot more values on this, and we're going to see where these things are coming from. So here I can kind of see like a location too. Like I can see like, okay, it's in Malevolence, which is in Eden's Grove, and it comes out of the Ancient Elite chest. So you can get an idea of some of the sources you could get this stuff from. There's also dropped buys, so that would be like enemies, and so like a black alligator of this level would have a chance to drop this thing, like this item, right? And so some items only drop from certain monsters of certain levels, and only when you are a certain level. So you could be looking for an item, spend all your time farming for it, and never get it. And the reason is you're not farming either the right monster or you're not the right level. So that's what makes this website very important, because you can kind of check on these things and see who is dropping these items and what like specifications you need to even obtain them. You can also look at some of the named items and see like who is dropping this named item, because there are bosses and unique bosses that have a drop table that's special to them, and you can only access that drop table at a certain level. So checking these things is going to be very valuable, in my opinion. So this is definitely a nice little website. They do have their Discord on here, so if you are someone who likes to talk about data and specifics within the game and get into that real nitty-gritty spreadsheet type stuff, these are definitely a good group of guys to go to. You will feel right at home. So once again, huge shout out to everybody at this site for giving me the go-to to make this video, and I'm just hoping to bring some quality information and keep updating that information to the community so that we can all just figure out how to play this game better and enjoy it more and have fun and find the things that we're looking for and all that stuff. Lastly, I did want to say that I do appreciate the support on the channel quite a lot. I think we're up to 2,300 subs right now, which is actually amazing. It's blowing my mind. The rate at which we're growing is phenomenal. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos, and for anyone who has hit, subscribe or like or the bell or anything of that. And if you haven't already, if you could, that would go a long way, as I will continue to keep bringing you New World content all the way up to the launch and even after that as well. So I'm trying to make a video every day to keep everyone entertained here as we enter this long drought. So any support you can give would go a long way. Appreciate that, guys, and I will see you in the next video.